What was that last song?
That was Eyes Like Pearls by Van Hunt.
Really? It's
Yeah.
kind of banging. It had a kind of a trashy, bangy thing. It's nice to see you, Kevin. I haven't seen you in ages. Oh my God. Just a reminder, this is the world's first scratch and sniff.
Look at Gray.
We're out for these computer
Look,
graphics.
Gray. And Audrey. How you doing, Audrey?
Good. How are you?
Well.
Hey, Audrey.
Good to see you guys.
Hey, Gray. How are you, man?
Great, Martin. How are you guys?
Very good. Very good. Is Nicki joining us? Oh, okay. Oh, we got the whole thing going on. Hey, Nicki, I haven't seen you in ages. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Let me introduce everybody. Or does everybody want to introduce themselves? What do you think?
I want to be introduced. I hate talking about myself any more than I have to.
Yeah, but then I get Mariah Carey, and then I'm like, there's 10 other huge.
Yeah, the Van Hunt song. You know what? I'm more proud of that. I recorded and mixed that. We did that all at Henson in like, I don't know, 3 hours one night.
Holy crap. Okay, well, all right then. So, Kevin.
I'm Kevin. I engineer records. I teach kids how to do the same thing. That's it.
That's pretty cool. And you've worked with a student was kind of threw a bunch of links in the chat. Mariah Carey. Did you work on the Mescaleros?
No. Well, my first gig ever in Los Angeles was driving Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros around LA. They were doing the South Park soundtrack back in '97, I want to say. But I actually had a really decent relationship with him. We used to always bring him cassettes and rough mixes to the hotel he stayed at. And then he ultimately hired me to record and mix this band called The Distillers that were on Epitaph on Brett Gerwitz's label. And so that kind of came full circle. And then unfortunately he passed away. And, tremendous dude.
Wow. That's what an amazing resume you have, Kevin. And of course, we both teach down at Millikan University in Decatur, Illinois, a place that's gorgeous, awesome, long-standing institution, crazy enough to let us do all of this shit. Like, you can't argue with that.
And I started with you up in Madison. And Audrey, this is really full circle, by the way. I'm not going to hijack your thing. Audrey is one of my first students. It's so amazing to sit in front of one of the students who sat in my first class as I just struggled my way through lectures. Just no idea what the hell I was doing. I'm not much better than that.
Well,
I never would have known.
So, Audrey, you are a graduated student from Madison Media Institute. You have audio in the arts. You just won an award, the Mamas, Mothers Against Martin Atkins Award.
Yes, that's what that acronym is for.
I know, I got to get a T-shirt. I just have to get a T-shirt. Madison Area Music Awards are a really big deal. I think I was involved in the ceremony one year. I thought, yeah, I'll come down and whatever. And there's a theater with 1,000 people in the theater. It's a really big deal. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. This year it was all virtual though, of course. So no thousands of people in a room.
Nicki, you are a graduate from SAE Chicago, and you're currently at Black Lion Audio.
Yeah, yes. I've just completed over 2 years over at BLA. Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about Black Lion?
Yeah, we're a pro audio tech company. We specialize in analog gear, in designing, producing, and also modifying existing products like the Apollo interface, DigiRacks, things like that. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I mean, we got some great things about to drop. So yeah, I'm really excited for the future. We're definitely gonna change the game out there when it comes to some low budget but very high quality audio interfaces.
I've got a logo taped to a toothbrush. You can say whatever you want. So, so,
Well, we're actually about to drop our own line of interfaces. So it's going to be very affordable, and I think you guys will be blown away just by the quality that you're going to hear.
and I think, I don't know this, but I think somebody involved in Blackline is a Millikan alumni.
Okay.
And I feel ridiculous not having reached out or confirmed that. But yeah, and now it seems like, yeah, but tell everybody I said hello, Ben.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
What do you do? You're a studio cat. What do you do when you're in the studio? What do you like to do?
Yeah, so I fell in love with Pro Tools. I know there's so many other, DAWs out there, but I just really love Pro Tools, and I made it a mission of mine to sort of be a master of one instead of using one software to produce and use Pro Tools, and do all the exporting and all that. So I really spent some good time working out the kinks with just doing everything in Pro Tools, from MIDI production and just all in one. I help studios fix their gear. Yeah, so there's a lot of that. I just really love helping artists create. I really love bringing ideas to life. There's a studio here called Jungle Lore Studios out in Pilsen. We've gotten some pretty just great artists like Vic Mensa now rents a room out there permanently. We had to extend and get another room at the Music Garage. So I mean, things are great. I just love troubleshooting, fixing things, and just always creating, just staying busy.
And I guess if you don't love troubleshooting, you're going to learn how to love it pretty quickly in a recording environment.
Yeah. Streaming too. So that's like a really big thing. Learning how to stream and do it in an affordable way. Not everyone can sit here and invest thousands of dollars into a PC or another computer right now. So pretty much using all the free resources that's available out there, like OBS, and they have a plugin called NDI Technologies where you can have a dedicated computer for streaming and use your souped up cheese grater, for mixing and everything, and just very flawlessly just share your screen. And the audio that the streamers hear is the same audio that's coming out of your PMCs or whichever focals, they hear what you hear. So that's a huge thing.
Well, you're going to be hearing from me and Molly pretty soon.
Yeah,
this
love
is
it.
the way everything's going. So Gray, you're over at Gravity Studios in Chicago?
No. Right now the studios are pretty just the head honchos are staying in their in their studios. We're doing a lot of things just streaming.
Right. Nicki, I was talking to
Oh, I'm sorry.
All good.
It's fine. How's it going, Gray?
It's going well. Obviously, there's been a pretty strong shift, especially right at in March. We went from having stuff on the books to pretty much there were a few months where it was let's do as much remotely as we can. I should start with I'm the studio manager, also do some production and engineering as people ask me to, as it's needed in terms of who was we had about half of our staff just say I'm quarantining, I'm not going to be in, I can't take that sort of risk. And but then as other companies have started to pick up on this obvious shift that we have to be able to stream and work remotely, we've used a lot of different technologies, kind of trying to find the right one that works consistently. And then I'm on the phone with Comcast a couple times a month at least lately, trying to figure out hey, why can't we get this out to the world? But we've been using Listen To, and Source Nexus has been a great help for doing Zoom streaming, working. Let's see, the Ben Bram, who is the Pentatonics like arranger and engineer. I found out he's doing this kind of like Acapop Kids version. So he had a talent in studio here, and then he was using Zoom and Listen to basically control our machine locally. And so it's actually kind of bringing people together in some ways, you know, closer than maybe people that you wouldn't normally work with. And so that's been just new exciting challenges, and like you guys are saying, troubleshooting just out the wazoo. And if you don't love it, you're going to love it, or you're going to get the fuck out, because that's most of the job, isn't it?
Right. And so Audrey, what are you finding up in Madison? What's going on?
Yeah, so pretty much same thing here as what Gray mentioned is, you know, we had this full calendar in March. We are a primarily acoustic studio, so we focus on classical and jazz, singer-songwriter, bluegrass, folk, like whatever. And yeah, we have this whole like concert season scheduled with choirs and orchestras, and then all of that is canceled at least until May of next year. We are still doing virtual things. So yeah, we've also started streaming. A lot of like video composite projects are coming our way. So right now I'm on day 2 of recording a jazz group, a big band for 3 separate days, and we're rotating in musicians. So we're doing way more like overdubbing. So basically we're starting with the rhythm section, and anyone who can wear masks is masked up, and horns get their own special room and a pee pad thing that you use to train dogs for spit valves. And we're trying to figure it out like everybody else, but it's been working. We've been really busy.
Pee pads for spit valves.
Yes.
Genius.
Yeah. So okay then.
You know, it's like COVID's kind of brought up these things, like we maybe should have been doing something about the spit before this. But you know, like we'd mop, you know, after a session, but like it wasn't really a thing. And now we're like, oh, that's like the way people are dying, so let's not have that happen.
Do that. So can I ask any of you, all of you, what do you? Oh, that would have been a great scratch and sniff pee pad. Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Don't make the pee pads.
Does it smell like a puppy or a trumpet player, though?
Next time.
Which is worse? Like,
This depends on the trumpet player. I don't know.
I'm not sure it does.
Just a general question. So you all see people who are about to be creative, right? I mean, we know what's going on in the mall or here or there or in restaurants. What through the lens of a studio, what are you seeing from people? Are people becoming more intense? What just creatively, what are people doing?
Yeah, for me, I've noticed there is kind of a sense of relief when people walk into the studio. Like we're at the, I mean, hopefully middle to end of this period of not being able to make music really in person with people. And so when people are in the studio, as soon as they kind of walk through the doors and get past the weirdness of the pee pads and the stuff, everyone gets their own room and the doors are shut and you can take off your mask and kind of chill. And then you do get like the interaction with people. So I'm seeing a little bit of a shift from like what maybe would be like studio nerves to like, oh my gosh, I'm just so happy to be making music again. Let's just play something. And that's leading to some more like collaborative spirits happening.
Okay, anybody else want to jump in on that? What are you seeing, Kevin?
Well, since I don't really engineer anymore as a living, and I teach, what I see is a good number of students getting into the studio a lot, using it quite a bit. I mean, we've closed off the studio for curricular use only this semester, which I know is a bummer to a lot of my colleagues, a lot of students. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that it's a safe place for our students to go in and finish their projects and work through that. And And to that end, we basically just set the studio up before the semester started, and we leave it set up like a lockout. Like everything is set up at all times. We can change mics, we can change positioning of mics, but we left it all set up so we wouldn't have to do setup and tear down. Everyone's got, walks in, grabs a set of gloves. But what I see is, I think people who are exploring the technology were able to offer Pro Tools via a licensed server, at least on campus, so people can jump in and do Pro Tools in their dorms or in their apartments. And I think that a lot of people are going really inward and just having this ability to create, because it's been fueled by everything over the past 4 years and certainly over the past 9 months. And then at the same time, I see people that rightfully so aren't coming into the studio and aren't really getting in to those doors, and they have their concerns, and completely valid. So I'm seeing kind of the divide in there, but at the end of the day, I see the same spirit of creativity, if not even more emboldened by all this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody has, Audrey mentioned the full calendar, pulled away. I mean, you were sitting there, Kevin, with this brand new Neve console install. It was almost like, I'm going to EQ the bass guitar. No, I'm not. Get out. Cruel and unusual will be the least of it. But it seems like people are either pivoting and rising above, or drowning maybe. What's going on at Gravity, Gray? Are you busy? Oh, your mic is...
You're muted.
Thank you. New to this whole Zoom thing. I shouldn't be at this point in the pandemic, but I think that is what all of y'all have said so far is pretty much the same thing. We've seen some people kind of like feel like it's more life or death, or more, like we have to say something, especially not just with the pandemic, but everything politically that's going on. And I'd say that, yeah, there's a spirit that people are cautious, and some people, like I was saying, some of our engineers have been mixing from their own home rigs that they've been working from forever. And then, so we're keeping stuff as booked as possible, and all the while navigating this very emotional, and it's all art. It's people like becoming the most vulnerable when there are these weird things kind of especially that they feel like hanging over them, and this just from all I don't think I'm being super articulate with this question, but if anyone wants to jump off that or make sense of that.
Well, I think that kind of is like a common experience right now. So, obviously it kind of is. So, that's kind of nice, because then instantly, like, you have something in common with somebody. Like, I've noticed that the question, like, hey, how's it going? The meaning of that is a little different these days. Like, my favorite answer to that has been, it's pandemic, okay? So I think that instantly kind of gets everybody on the same page. And then once that happens, maybe it's a little easier to let that creativity kind of come through, or like be a little bit more vulnerable with each other, because we're going through this right now.
I guess from a technical point of view, we did a documentary screening on Thursday night, and under any other circumstance, people would have, well, it was free, but people would have asked for a refund. There was a couple of points when people's mouths were moving and the audio was 5 or 6 seconds adrift, and nobody cared because we were doing it and people were chatting on the chat. Is there anything, how are people responding with their music? Are people becoming more pedantic about things, or are people letting things go and being more expressive? What are you seeing?
I think as we have more physical boundaries and limitations placed on what is, wisest, smartest, safest for us to do, I think that all of the mental, creative boundaries have somewhat disappeared. And to what Audrey said, I think that for the most part, anything goes these days. I mean, we're in the middle of the pandemic and a million other things, and I'm just saturated, as saturated as you could possibly be. I'm plus 12 with anxiety, angst, stress. I don't know that much else could be thrown at me, and I'm not tempting fate, that would make me any more on edge. So at this point, anything goes, and I think everyone's got this built-in amount of empathy for everyone else. Because like, all right, you want to do that? That's totally fine. And that's just my take on it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a recording studio analogy, which I said like last week somewhere, and people just looked at me. But maybe I could share it with you guys, and you could be like, fantastic, this is brilliant. I liken this period to, in terms of everybody being overloaded. I remember being in a recording studio drumming with 2-inch tape, and you go through a take, and then somebody would say, can you pound the middle bit? You got it at the end with the tom-toms, let's do that again. I'd be like, okay. And then there'd be like 3 minutes where the tape was being rewound, too far rewound, then it would go too far forwards, and then they'd find the start. Meanwhile, I'm getting like a 4-minute break. Now it's like Pro Tools drumming, where people are like, yeah, you got the toms at the end, let's go again. And immediately after finishing the first take, you're still breathless. You know, that was my analog tape COVID metaphor.
That's a good one. I know that I lived through the era of going from tape machines and cutting on 2-inch tape to having Pro Tools, and it certainly wasn't binary. We didn't just switch over. A lot of people did both. They'd sync Studers to Pro Tools, and we'd cut drums and bass on tape, and then we'd transfer over to Pro Tools and do the rest of it that way. But the fun part, although in the moment, just like this, it wasn't fun, was that vocals in the past, just like Martin said, you'd cut vocals on tape. You might put a piece of tape next to the tape machine on the autolocator that gave you a rough approximation of where the first verse, second verse, chorus was. But when you rewound, we always did the unmuted rewind, so the artist could hear that we're rewinding and getting us into position. Anyone who's running Pro Tools knows now you could finish a 7-minute take, hit the space bar, hit it again, and start a whole new 7-minute take with no time whatsoever. So I've always equated that to golfing while using a cart, as opposed to golfing and walking to your next shot and thinking it over. The downside was that back in the day, people, some of the artists I worked with, were really antsy to cut vocals. So when we were rewinding, they were like, come on, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And now we can turn the tables on them and be like, oh yeah, you want to recut that? Oh, here we are, bar 27, go. I'm like, oh,
Aren't you ready?
Wait. Give me some pre-roll. Here's 2 bars of pre-roll. We're at 25, going to 27, go. And then they kind of figured out like, whoa, all right. So but that is a good analogy.
Is anybody, do you have any coping mechanisms? I'm asking everybody, do you have any coping mechanisms to deal with this overload? I'm like, I've been going with it for a while, but I've got this little thing. I've got this little truck in my rearview mirror that's like, hold on a minute.
I think just try to I try to take things a day at a time, like a little by little. I kind of, rather than zooming out, because if you start to zoom out and think about, oh my God, okay, since March, my job's changed, my kids don't go to school, all this stuff, I can't go, if you start thinking about it like that, everything blends together even more than it already does. And it just kind of adds up faster. And at least for me, it does. So I try to just zoom in and think about, okay, so today, it's not, today is fine. I have to I have to get to the studio. My son goes to this babysitter today, or my mom, or whatever. And just think about the stuff you have to do kind of in that moment just to get through. And if that includes getting up and taking a shower that day, that's great. Sometimes that is not in the cards. And if it's one of those days, then you don't have to be the meanest person that you encounter in a day to yourself. You're always going to be meaner to yourself. So if you show that compassion, and obviously easier said than done, but if you can give yourself a break and say, yeah, I had a really good day yesterday, the day before, today is a little harder for me, allow that flexibility for yourself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can I ask what you will do? Well, 2 questions. Is there any technology you're leaning on now that you weren't leaning on in the past? And what you might do when this is over? What are you what are you fantasizing about? 9-piece horn section, all spitting all over each other?
Yeah, in some other country. uh, I mean, as far as like technology, like obviously Zoom and any kind of platform like this, the usage is way up. I've been relying a little bit more on my Fitbit just to make sure I don't spend a whole day like and not get up and not realize it. Like it helps me make sure I actually am still moving around a little bit. Disney Plus,
Right.
I guess.
We've been using a lot of Dante. We've always used Dante since I started at Millikan. And when I started at Millikan, 6 years ago, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't deal with AOIP at all. I only had to deal with codecs, perhaps doing listening sessions or overdubs. But Dante, in a nutshell, basically gives us the ability to stream from one location on campus to another. And it's a bit stream of audio that can be up to 64 channels, 24K, 24-bit, 48K. So we started a couple of years ago recording things that were happening at the Kirkland Fine Arts Center, which is a couple hundred yards away from the School of Music. We created a subnet for a few rooms in the School of Music, and we did that. And I did it really to give students the ability just to learn, have a new thing on their resume. And then we would do Dante certifications. I think Gray might have done Dante certifications. Did you get 1 and 2 certified?
I don't think the certification was official yet, but we poked around that matrix and figured it out. I think I was there when you started installing that. That was an exciting time to be able to dial in one room and have 64 channels. And I guess that wasn't super new at the time, but now it feels like everyone not expects that, but people are pushing more for that sort of like, we don't have to be in the same place. I can be anywhere in the world. And so there is that sense of heightened community, which is weird in this time, but.
I just saw a band I used to work with, Killing Joke. Somebody was saying, well, why won't they make a new album? And people were responding on Facebook, well, they've all got to get together. And I didn't jump in, but I'm thinking, well, they don't need to get together. Are we at the point where, I'm assuming if you're in the studio at the school, Kevin, or wherever, you've got the bass player in the ISO room. Is there a difference between having the bass player in the ISO room and having the bass player in Poland?
We haven't done remote sessions at Millitracks. What we do on Fridays is we do labs where I'll start a Zoom meeting. I'll have a student, some of them who are here today, come in and be the assistant. We're both wearing masks. And then we have an artist out in the tracking room and they sign in as well. So we have 3 cameras going down and then I'm screen sharing Pro Tools. And we're doing our best in 50 minutes to say this is a vocal overdub session. We're going to try a couple different mics, a couple different settings. But I've not done a remote session where the player was somewhere else, not in the age of COVID anyway. So I can't answer that.
Okay. Is anybody familiar with people doing that? Is this just opening up possibilities for artists, but also for studios? So
I mean, when we've done that, it hasn't been like we're like tracking into my Pro Tools rig. What it's been like is, okay, the bass player is, LA, and then we've got the keyboard player in New York or whatever. And then they'll, a lot of people, especially right now, have at least some kind of audio gear at home, and it might not necessarily be like super awesome, but a Focusrite will do a decent job on stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of sending of tracks to Click Track, and for me it kind of depends on the genre. Like that is not really happening with jazz because everyone really plays like off of each other. It's not happening as much, but for stuff that naturally is more like locked into a click, then that's kind of how people have been working for a little bit, but more now especially.
Somebody just asked me, Audrey, are those Paisley Research monitors? I don't know what.
Oh, behind me?
Dynaudios.
Yeah, they're the Dynaudios.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't even remember what room am I in.
And the other part of that question is, what are you what are you planning? What is everybody planning for the next thing? What do you see happening, and how are you preparing for the flexibility of what that might be? Because who knows, right?
Yeah, for me, that's the hard part, because this is such an unpredictable time. I'm kind of taking the attitude like the worst case scenario would be a complete lockdown that lasts months and months. So I'll prepare in my brain for that. Like, I might try to line up a lot of unattended mixing stuff if I feel like we're going there. I beefed up my internet at home. We're doing that at the studio too. So just kind of doing some of those things. But yeah, for me, I get kind of overwhelmed thinking too far in the future right now, especially.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you in terms of, I feel at least right now, like, because we had to deal with upgrading our internet and figuring out new technologies, like I have TeamViewer running on all of our studio computers, so I can like boot into them and access the server, move stuff around. And so now if we do go back to complete lockdown, which is looking more and more likely, not only are our clients that have had existing projects, they're a little bit, I guess, more prepared to, well, yeah, they're already in the headspace of like, how are we going to make this happen regardless of the obstacles, and so they're more prepped for it, and just the infrastructure of the technology that we've got set up is readier now than it was in March. And so we, like Audrey was saying, yeah, unattended mixing, getting those things lined up. We do have, I think we've seen more clients, and I think I saw something in the chat like, do we see more people switching to like in the box and MIDI recording? I think we've seen that for like the past like years. There's so many times that the call will be, hey, can I come in and track over, vocals over a beat, one song, two songs, however, like in a couple hours. And as long as they, have the beat, maybe something that they have made at home, maybe something that someone else made at home and they found on the internet, maybe something that someone made in a $20,000 studio, but less likely so these days. I think that a lot of the it differs, the whole gamut of what's coming into the studio. But I'd say that we are seeing tons more people creating and being comfortable creating at home, and then saying, all right, I've done my part, hand it off to us, and okay, how can you do it? And so sometimes that's less collaborative because it's like, all right, my part's done, now your job, but other times it and this is the, I'd say, most fun way to work in this sort of way in terms of remote, is if someone comes in and maybe does a little bit of safe tracking, and then we get to lay down a couple ideas, they take it back, edit it, send something back to us, we send it back, and it is collaborative. And people like, there's so much more technology and faster technology that the workflow it's not as fast as being together, but it's way faster than it could be. Even I think like 9 months ago, 2 years ago, like maybe the technology just would have caught up. But I also have to think that we're incredibly fortunate on the studio side of things compared to the live event side of things. Like it's picked up a little bit during the summer, and I know that the last wedding, I can't believe that we had a wedding yesterday with the wedding band that I work for. It was crazy. There were like 18 people there, like super small. The band was like, I can't believe they didn't cancel us. They wanted to, but like, there's still people writing, and they're going to write for free at their homes or whatever. There's still this energy that's happening. And I'd say we're incredibly blessed to be able to help facilitate and capture that, and to play a part in that emotional thing that everyone needs to get out. Because yeah, everyone's feeling like 3,000% intake, and you just can't handle that.
We've been looking at stuff in my touring class, Monday nights and Saturday mornings. I think some of the touring students are on today. Looking at people who are turning things around. We're waiting to find out if our drive-in is still happening for the end of the month. which I think it might be if you're in a car, as long as you don't get out of the car. That feels like that could still go ahead. Not a concert, but a screening. There's a warning: they will only deliver 1 bucket of beer to each car. I don't know why. But there are people in the live world who are Metallica, for instance, Garth Brooks, pivoting to like drive-in concerts, being everywhere at once. And I think Tanya mentioned in our touring class, Melissa Etheridge is absolutely killing it. She's pivoted to a 7-camera setup in her garage, which she's going to be taking on the road with her when things get back to normal, which I don't think they're going to get back to normal, right? Because Melissa Etheridge will be traveling with a 7-camera crew, well, a 7-camera setup, not a 7-camera crew. That's different. But she has 1,000 subscribers paying $50 a month, and she's neither going to let go of that connection, nor is her management team going to let go of that money. Molly's telling me there's a question in the Q&A. Okay, what's the?
Getting musicians in the studio is rather rare at this point. On the occasion, it does happen. What does that look like? How does it feel? Are artists having to get musicking together again, or do they bounce back?
Okay, can everybody see that question, or you want me to? I think I can read it. Are artists getting together in the studio? What does that look like? How does it feel? Or are artists having to get used to musicking together again, or do they bounce right into it?
I like the word musicking as a verb.
Yeah, I think it should be CK though.
Yeah.
King. Yeah.
Musicing.
I guess part of that question is about the tightness of a band playing together a lot.
So what's really been kind of like interesting with this jazz group that I'm working with is that right now this is the first time they've actually been together. So this is for the college in town. It's the college level jazz band, and they have had only virtual classes this whole semester. This is like their final project. And so how their class has been structured is, up until this, what they've been doing is they have like a click track or a reference song or something that they've all been listening to and playing along with on their own, and getting together on Zoom to like swap notes about things, or talk about form changes, or who takes a solo where, that kind of stuff. And then they all got here yesterday, and it was like the first time they'd actually been in the same room together, or at least in rooms very near each other where there's glass between so they can still see each other. But so I was hearing them say things like, "Oh, I didn't realize that you're this tall," and stuff. But then when we got to the actual recording, the first half of the first take is a little weird. They're still kind of figuring some stuff out, but then everyone kind of settles back into it, kind of like riding a bike. Like, I think musicians and producers even too, like, have this need to like make music in their blood, so then when the opportunity comes up, it's very natural, and it's kind of like no one really is skipping a beat, unless they're supposed to. And yeah, so that's what they've been like. I kind of usually take the position that, like, if everyone's playing separately to a click track, some of the groove just isn't as there. Like, like if you try to listen to any Stevie Wonder, if you tap that out, it's not to a grid, and some of that funk can kind of get lost. But when they're finding it when they're together. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question for Nicki in the chat. What does life at Black Lion look like? Are there any trends you didn't expect as people are staying home and recording more at home?
Oh man, we are insanely busy. So I don't know. I'm a very glass half full type person. So you know, whenever there's an obstacle or whenever there's something arises, I think it's an opportunity to adapt, to learn. Right now, a lot of people are taking the time to upgrade their setups. A lot of people are investing time to like figure out the best quality that they could give their viewers. Um, so right now it's great. I mean, we're busy. We're shipping blueies. We're coming up with more ideas, more homages. We don't like to claim that we make clones. We like to take something and put our own spin on it. So I mean, things are great. You know, there's things are a little more strict. I mean, with shipment and things that we order. Things, you know, sometimes we have to send packages across the world for other studios that are like in Thailand or you know, other countries. So it's a bit of a challenge, but everything's good. Everyone protects themselves. UPS, FedEx, they protect themselves. I mean, because we get pallets of gear in. So I mean, it's great. I'm very grateful. You know, right now for the future, my goal is to educate and also learn from other people. You know, I'm always on the stream, always watching Twitch, watching how other engineers and other producers are collaborating with other people. Gray touched on the community, and it's crazy, like the support that's out there, and how many and how much like people want to learn. And you know, right now people have the time and they're at home, so you know, we're somewhat coming into a point where the digital, like in the box, is now meeting analog gear. Producers are now getting a little curious about running their stems through an LA2A or a compressor to try to bring some life into it, you know. So there's just it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, it's great at Blacklight. It's busy, and we're all healthy, and I'm grateful to still be able to do what we're doing. Yeah.
So you mentioned the places to get support. Where I know that there's EARS, I don't even know what EARS stands for, engineering, audio, something.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with engineers. However, I do watch like some of the people who are in that group. I think there's a engineer, like he goes by Mix by Ali. He mixes a bunch of like mainstream you know, like I'll watch like Twitch streams like that, and I see like the direction that they're going and how they're essentially educating other aspiring engineers, and not scared to share their secrets or none of that, because at the end of the day, I think as an individual, you know, you have your own ears, your own taste. It's great to share knowledge because people are able to piggyback off that and use it in their own way. And I think the more you can offer that to people, you kind of build like this loyal fan base. It's great. I don't know, I could ramble on forever, sorry.
Somebody just threw your Twitch link into the chat. And here's a question from Ted. What do you recommend? I'm going to throw this to everyone while I run up the stairs and turn the heater up a little bit here. What do you recommend as minimal viable gear? Microphone, interface, mixing software, monitors, headset, whatever.
Minimal gear is your laptop. You record into your microphone, your speakers, your output, you got a headphone jack. Use that in GarageBand, honestly. I mean, I think one of the greatest things about technology is that in the past, it took more time for it to evolve, and constraints really helped music production. Before there was Pro Tools, there was the MPC 60, MPC 1000, 2000, 3000. And we used to call that, and the producers would come in, they would call it ghetto Pro Tools. And these were hip hop producers. But they called it, no, they said that in a really loving way because it gave them the ability to sample and to sequence and to pitch things up and down and add effects in inside of one box. And it's a whole, different type of production. And I've seen people, in fact, that song you played earlier, Eyes Like Pearls, started off as an MPC 3000 track. So I think limitations is a really wonderful thing. And just thinking about, so with my MacBook right now, I can go into Logic. I can use my QWERTY keyboard as a keyboard. I can record myself into the microphone. I can make samples. I have outputs on the new MacBooks because they suck so badly these days. They don't put inputs. They don't put extra ports, anything cool. It's really sleek. And then you got to carry a purse full of adapters, which I have. But I think minimum, honestly, is literally just your creativity and a netbook, a Mac. It's something that's got a sound card and a microphone.
I'd say like the easiest, like one step up from that would be, you don't necessarily need a microphone and an XLR cable and an interface these days, because I forget the Shure MV series or Shure Motif. The like $100 plugs direct into your computer. Like I got one for one of my friends who is a teacher. She's doing online Zoom stuff, and like every single person that hears her after going to other classes is like, whoa, why do you sound so different? Or like when she calls anyone, like that $100, in comparison to the cost of the computer, like I'd say that is the quick and dirty, easy, like, and then other than that, you can start spending, but I'd say some sort of mic, and then that has like, it acts as the interface, I think, where even if you don't have, all these new MacBooks still have the 1/8 inch adapter, right? Or 1/8 inch, like okay.
Headphone outputs, yeah. So far.
Yeah, we'll see. That must be the MacBook Pro. Jesus, my Mac from 2012 like caught fire the other day. I was sitting in the studio and it just started smoking, and I was sitting in front of this gear, or this like with the credenza with just a bunch of gear behind it, like the Unfair Child, and I'm like smelling burning electronics. I'm like, I hope it's not that, but also I hope it's not this computer. So
must have been a hot track.
No, my battery just said replace now, and it was serious. It's like,
Replace
fine,
now.
you aren't going to replace now?
Replace.
I mean fucking now.
Or I will self-destruct.
Yeah, and I took the back off, and like that same component on the PCB just kept glowing red, and like I had to blow it out and disconnect the battery. Anyway, that was an aside. But yeah, like these interfaces, mic and interface in one, have headphone adapter like right in the back of it. If you want to collab with a friend, get a splitter, and boom, you're done.
I like this one question, which just sounds like a nightmare. I've got my we all have our own studios, right? My studio's over there, and I've got my big speakers and my horror tones to listen on that I know. Is there a problem when you're mixing something for people in different places? You send out mixes that sound great in your studio, and 4 different people are listening on 4 different setups, and the feedback you get is just, wow, what do you do with that?
Yeah, that's a huge issue. So at Millikan, we have the head of piano studies, Dr. Sylvan Nekriutu. I did a recording of him doing a bunch of bagatelles over in August, and we've been mixing back and forth. And the editing we did over Zoom, which was fine. You can edit over Zoom. You can hear, whatever little transitions and nudges here and there and comps and whatever inserts. But mixing was a nightmare, and it still is, because we don't have a uniform way of listening. Ultimately, what I did was, and I'd highly recommend this to everyone, is if you're going to go with headphones, and I think you have to, you got to get open ear headphones. And so these are my favorite headphones I've ever owned in my entire life. These are Shure, what are these? SRH 1840s. They're open back. So when you listen to it, you're not getting all that bass reinforced. It's a very natural sound. It goes down to an 1/8 inch adapter. I find that's the best way to level the playing field in an affordable way, because it's tough, man. If someone listens on laptop speakers, or someone else listens on Kefs or Dyne Audios or Focals, it's going to sound different. There's never necessarily been standardization in terms of of speaker placement. It's just certainly not in the consumer world. So yeah, that's certainly an issue.
Well, and beyond that, you're in a totally different room. So if you have the same speakers, like
Yeah,
if you're in a long, skinny room and the other person is in a padded room, like we all wish we were in sometimes, then it'll sound super different.
Wow, that's a great tip. One of the last things I want to throw at you, one of the things that we haven't spoken about is music and vibe and feeling. Well, I mean, not specifically. Is there what's the music that you go to listen to get you through this? Because we're all music studio cats, music geeks. What are you listening to and sitting down and exhaling a little bit, or jumping up and down and pogoing?
For me, I've been listening to a lot of Perfume Genius. He came out with an album back in May, so he's kind of this like Baroque pop artist. So I guess maybe that is the common theme in the stuff I'm listening to lately, is that it's a smattering of genres that you wouldn't necessarily would think would work, but do. Yeah, maybe some older stuff. I have a lot of Charles Mingus on the playlist, but also just because I'm in the jazz world. But it is kind of like nostalgic to listen back to some of that old stuff lately too.
Wow, nice barking dog samples.
They're good at that.
Music to me is my drug. I mean, literally, I talk to my students about sobriety. Something that Audrey said earlier is about taking things one day at a time. I think in this, where we are right now, we have to kind of take things one day at a time. I don't even want to look at my calendar for tomorrow until I wake up. But for music, to me, it's all about vibe. If wake up tired and I want to come in and wait, I'm in the audio lab at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, blasting Placebo's first record, or listening to, just a whole bunch of different things. Old Smashing Pumpkins is great. Screaming Trees. And then there's times like the new Sarah Jarosz record, not new, World on the Ground, is brilliant. I mean, it just sets me on my ass. I listen to it, the hairs in the back of my neck stand up, and everything she sings about is so personal, so real, and so believable. But I can't enjoy those two different things at two different times. I don't think I could wake up to Sarah Jarosz. It's beautiful, but I need something to get me jacked.
I'm a very I love R&B. It was the first genre that made me like crazy about music. So I'll listen to Sade and I really like remixes or like mashups of R&B songs and classics. I'm a huge supporter of like Chicago local artists. I feel like they're kind of meshing the genre of like Chicago house and R&B, and just it's really interesting. So yeah, I'll listen to Sade, a band called Drama Duo, and another artist. I mean, they're like not big, they're not like Metallica or anything yet, but yeah, just like R&B music, it just calms me down because I'm a very like excited person, and I'm very like anxious to like, all right, what's the next thing we're gonna solve? So like that just like kind of levels me out.
Without ringing the Millikan University bell at every opportunity, but wait, speaking of house music, Lady Di, who I think is the world's first female house DJ from the 80s. I don't know. Help me if I'm not getting that right. She didn't come out of the music program. There's a bunch of really interesting people came out of like chemistry and biology and all over the place at Millikan. It's kind of just interesting. And I'm thinking now I should have got Lady Di on this panel, but next time. Lots of comments in the chat about a Scarlet I don't know what a Scarlett is.
It's a
Scarlett,
little
focus right
one of
here.
these guys. Interface.
Oh, okay. I guess one of my predictions is I've been having lots of calls with people. Like I'm trying to source. I found a Fostex 4-track cassette machine because I've got Killing Joke 4-track live recordings. I've got 6 blackface ADATs. Of course, anybody who isn't a studio cat is just, what the hell is going on? I'm going to go through and archive and back up. Should have done it ages ago. Some blackface ADATs, some DAT tapes, some half-inch 8-track tape, quarter-inch tape. I predict that musicians who aren't on the road are going to start delving into cupboards and shoe boxes. And I had it happen to me yesterday. Somebody said, "Oh my goodness, I just found these board tapes off of for some monitor mixes from an album." Are you prepared for that in any way? Looking forward to some archival work?
That's actually something that we've been doing for a while. So yeah, we've got a little oven ready to bake any tapes that don't play back right, and got a tape machine set up. So yeah, we're ready for that. That's not new to us.
Well, if you need blackface ADATs, I've got
Yeah.
Oh, those things shred tapes.
Yeah.
I have a student group called MARS, Millikan Audio Recording Services, and what we really focus on these days is mobile recording. But we started with a bend on archival. We have MCI machines in the control room. We have a 1/4 inch and we have half-inch 8-track and a 1/4 inch 2-track. And I'm getting rid of those. We have a Tascam. We also have what is the other one we have? An Atari half-inch machine as well. I don't foresee us doing as much archival from tapes, especially given the different speeds and formats that there are, head stacks, etc. But we have a couple really great turntables, and even have this cool Okinoki record cleaner, which is like this $500 record cleaning machine that vacuums the stuff off of it. And we've done a lot of that for the School of Music, for taking old recordings that Millikan had done 20, 30 years ago. So I think that's still going to continue as well.
Well, hey, let me know if you're getting rid of those tape machines. I have a MX 5050 half-inch and a 1/4 inch.
Oh yeah.
Up here, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I think we're coming to the end of this. It's really nice to chat with everybody. I appreciate all of the advice that's been freely given. And thanks for taking the time to do it. Next time we do it, I promise we will have a scratch and sniff pee pad. We'll really take this to the next level.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So thanks for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it. MMX appreciates it. And we'll see you next time.
See you. Nice to meet you, Nicki. Good to see you, Audrey and
Thank
Gray.
you.
Cheers, y'all.
Good to see you too.
And,
Nice to meet you,
everybody.
Nicki and Gray. Bye.
Nice to meet you all. Cheers.
And stick around, everyone. Ad 2 is coming up in just a few minutes. So stick around for that.